Welcome back, legends. I hope you're all fantastic. On today's video, we're going to take a look at the TC Electronic G Major 2. I've got a G-Force already. I used to gig with an original G Major. That G Major sounded really good, but it was unreliable and the encoders fell apart and the buttons stopped working. And I think I sold it to somebody for like $100 and I felt really bad about that. I was like, you do know that it's falling apart, and they were just pretty stoked to grab it. I do remember it sounding really good though, so I'm keen to check out this G Major 2. I picked this one up on eBay pretty cheap, and it's one of those units that if you're looking to get into some rack effects, probably should be on your radar because it's really easy to operate. The effects all sound pretty good, and there's some cool functions on the back, like you can set up relay switching with your amp. It's got MIDI, it's got digital in and out via SPDIF. You can run it at 44.1 or 48K as well if you want to do that. What else is on this thing as well? You can connect an expression pedal or a tap tempo controller on here. You've got pretty thorough MIDI implementation as well. So if you've got a MIDI controller with MIDI CCs, you can turn all the individual effects blocks on and off. There's some really cool routing options in there. You can route it in series, in parallel, and some sort of like semi-parallel modes as they call them. I do like that the buttons aren't like on the G Major. They kind of had this dual pot. It was so annoying to use and so fickle and sensitive. These are a lot easier to use. So it just kind of feels like an overall upgrade on the G Major 2. What we're going to do is we're going to dive straight in. I'll probably get right into the deep tweaking. I'll try to show off most of the effects and some of the functionality. I'm not going to get into the relay switching stuff or the modifiers stuff. I would recommend maybe you go and check out my video with the TC Electronics G-Force to learn more about that stuff. Let's go. Let's start with a look at the front panel. Then I'm actually going to start with the dirtiest sound possible. I'm going to dial in some delay, some pitch detune. We'll hear the chorus and the reverb, and then we'll hear some clean stuff and we'll explore the routing options. Rather than scroll through factory presets, I have just kind of dialed in some blocks roughly to where I would normally start on a unit like this. So you got your power button over here, your input and output levels, your main screen, which has an always on tuner, the preset name, and you can see the routing layout under that matrix label just there. There's also levels and a damping control if you want metering on the compressor or something like that. You've got your gate and EQ controls accessible through here. You can edit your levels and your routing mode here. You've got an encoder for selecting things. Then your main effects blocks are instantly accessible on here. If you want to turn something on like the delay, you just press it. If you want to edit the delay, you double tap it. So this definitely makes it one of the easier rack units to actually get in and edit. I haven't even read the manual. I did use an original G Major well over a decade ago, and this just kind of felt like home. Way easier to use than, say, something like a Lexicon MPX1 or a Lexicon PCM81, which is just a little bit of a nightmare. But we won't go there. I will probably reference the original G Major, the TC G-Force, and the MPX1 throughout this video, because I know a lot of you out there have seen my videos with those, and I'll just kind of give some comparative thoughts while I go. You've got your setup menu and then some more encoders and things over there. So let's do this. Let's just recall this preset really quickly. I've got all the blocks off. This is my dry sound, which is super saturated. All right, let's kick in a delay. I've got this set up as a dual delay. You can see I've got a tempo synced, a dotted eighth note on one side, a quarter note on the other side, 30% and 20% feedback. I've gone really hard with the feedback high cut on there to warm it up, and then I've panned them hard left and hard right so they're running in parallel. Delay mix at 30%. Let's go. That's probably the main thing that I need out of any rack unit. And it sounds pretty good. I've got a little tap tempo switch hooked up. So if I just tap on that, I can slow down the tempo and the delays will still be tempo synced. Thumbs up for the delay. There are a few other delay modes, of course, including the kind of patented TC2290-ish dynamic delay. What I do find interesting is you can't phase reverse one of the delay lines to get that 2290 thing that we all know and love. The dynamic mode, you can set the delay, tempo and time, the feedback, the high cut, you can set the low cut, the offset in there, sensitivity for the ducker and damping. And that all looks pretty good to start with. So this will be, I'm going to turn the mix up a little bit. This is just a dynamic or duct delay. And it sounds pretty good. As I did before, I would probably go hard with that feedback high cut control on there and bring it down to around 3K. That sounds pretty awesome. Let's try the pitch detune next. I'm going to engage that. You can see I'm on the detune mode. I've got 11 cents on one side, minus 11 cents on the other. And I think I've got a slight delay offset on there to make it sound a bit wider. I'll just bring the mix control down to about 40%. Let's hear some big greasy detune. That sounds pretty massive. I'm going to go back to the delay. I want my dual delay back so that I can have the pitch detune and dual delay on there. Let's see. Where are my subdivisions? Quarter note, dotted eighth note, 30%, 20%. It's brought my settings back. I really like that. All right, let's hear this now. And I got to apologize for my attempt at that George Lynch side-to-side vibrato. Nevertheless, just those two together, that's 80s grease. That's what a lot of people want out of a unit like this. Let's try add some reverb on there. There's a few different reverb types. I believe this is currently a hall. No, it's a plate reverb on there. So you got plate, you got room, you got hall, and you got spring. I kind of like the plate the most. There's a bunch of reverb parameters in here with names that, again, remind me of the G-Force. Like you can set the reverb shape as round, curved, or square. You've got the size, which can go all the way up to huge. I'll just leave it on large. You've got high color. These are my favorite parameters in here. You've got wool all the way up to glass. Crisp, bright, clear, real, warm. Maybe let's go for clear with the plate reverb. Let's have a listen to what this adds. Pretty subtle in there. To me, with this unit, the reverb might be one of the areas where it kind of feels like they skimped out on it. I know if you grab something like a Lexicon MPX1, the reverbs on that sound incredible. They're rich, they're detailed, there's no metallic artifacts. This does have some of that kind of like metallic artifact stuff. Even if I turn the low color to thick and I bring the overall reverb level up and the room level down a little bit, I don't know. It's not bad, it's just not great. like I said, not bad at all. That is totally usable. Maybe if I went for like a smaller room style reverb in there, it might be more appropriate with this kind of sound. Let's go room. We'll leave the decay at 1.2 seconds. Check it out. That actually works pretty well. I might roll with that for this distorted sound. We'll hear some of the halls with a clean sound whenever we do get to that. And of course, we've got chorus and modulation in here. Let's take a look at some of the mod options that you've got. You've got a classic chorus, you've got an advanced chorus, a classic flanger, and advanced flanger, just like on the G-Force. You've got this tri-chorus normal and asymmetric. You've got a through zero flanger on here, vibrato, phaser, and Univibe. The phaser and Univibe I would use in a situation where I'm running this in front of an amp, which it's kind of confusing about this unit. It is my one kind of big criticism of it. You can't really run it in 4 cable mode, and you know, you've either got to say, hey, I want my reverb, delay, modulation, and pitch detune after my main distorted sound, like I've got it here, or I want to use the filters and the comps and the modulation, but then I've got delay and reverb in front of the amp, which obviously doesn't work with distortion. So yeah, I can see why they released something like the G system, which kind of gets around that. This, I think for most people, they're getting it for the delay and the modulation though. So let's do this. Let's just hear the asymmetric tri-chorus. What I love about this is that one, it's not on the G-Force or the G major, but you can go in and you can turn the phase reverse on one channel of the chorus. Let's do this. I'll just kind of change the speed. I'll bring it down a little bit, and we'll do the classic No More Tears test with it. Let's check it out. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I love that you can get that out of this unit. And I love as well that there's not a thing like on the MPX1 where you can't use certain modes with one another. If you want all of these blocks on, you can have them all on. There's enough power in there. Let's maybe just check out a different modulation mode on there, because that chorus, I don't know if it was doing the No More Tears thing. That's going to sound great with a clean sound with pitch detune, which we will hear. But let's do this. I'm just going to try maybe the classic chorus. I'll try the advanced chorus. What can we get out of the advanced chorus? I do want a slowish rate, maybe about 0.5 hertz. Depth I want down. What do we have in here? Can we do the phase reverse thing? High cut. We can set the delay. That is kind of cool. Hey, what have I done? Okay, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go for like a shorter delay time, more in the realm of like what you might actually get out of a flanger, but around 4 milliseconds on there. You can set the golden ratio on there, like on the G-Force. That's kind of cool. Phase reverse is on. Mix I'll bring down. Let's have a listen to what this sounds like. I think that is the ticket for a distorted sound. You've obviously got the flanger in there as well. We should hear the flanger. Let's go for advanced flanger because I think you can kind of do similar things as with the advanced chorus. What do we have? You can get a very, very slow speed on there, which is kind of cool. Depth, I'll turn down a little bit. What can we do with this? High cut, feedback. I like that you can get negative feedback values on this. It's going to sound pretty swishy, I think. Let's get a really short delay time. Let's go sub-millisecond on there. Golden ratio on, phase reverse on. I'll leave the mix maybe around 40%. Let's have a listen to it. Maybe a little heavy on the feedback, so let's just tweak that. Might go for some positive feedback on there, and just a little bit. It's actually a pretty good sounding flanger. It's got some nice analog style, I don't know, what adjective am I looking for here? It's got that chewy thing about it. You know what I mean. Strat time now. Let's hear that tri-chorus. I'm going to layer it with the pitch detune, and then we'll try add a whole reverb to it. That's pretty fun. What I've done is I've copied this preset over to another preset, but I've changed the routing to parallel. So let's have a listen to series one more time, then I'll move over to preset 2 where it's the same effects, but they're routed in parallel. I do like that extra control and kind of clarity that the parallel routing offers up. If you want to tweak the routing, you can come into this routing mode down here, and you've actually got parallel, you've got semi-parallel, and you've got serial. I think there's serial 2 as well, which you can see in there, I think places the mod and the delay in parallel, but before the reverb. So I kind of like the parallel routing, but having series and parallel options in there as well as some in-betweens is pretty cool in there. So one thing, if you're routing stuff, let's go back to parallel. I'll just recall this preset, is that say you're in the reverb, let me get into that, and you come down here, you've got to set the mix to 100% and you use the output level to control the overall blend between that reverb. You can kind of see the reverb block down here is blinking. That's just the nature of routing things in parallel. That's pretty sweet. Let's see if we can get an ambient tone out of this. What I'm going to do is I'll go into the delay. I'm going to select the ping pong delay type in there. Let's just set that to be a quarter note, and I'll tap in a slowish kind of tempo over here. Let's go into the reverb and let's crank up that reverb output level, and we'll come up here and we'll select, I don't know, let's do curved for the shape. We'll give it a big pre-delay on there, and we'll crank the decay up past 10 seconds. I'll leave it on Hall, but I'm going to change the size to like the biggest size over here. Set it to huge. We'll set the high color to glass. Let's turn up the high factor as well. Let's see how big this reverb can sound, hey? Let's hear the compression and some of the filter modes in here. What do I have set up on the comp? I've just set the threshold to -32 and the ratio is at 5.6. 1 millisecond attack, 70 millisecond release. I'm just going to set the gain at 0, and I'll go to my bridge and middle pickup. Let's have a listen to what it does. That is totally okay, kind of like the reverb, you know, it's doing the job. It's not the greatest thing you've ever heard in your life though. Let's get into the filter block because there's some fun stuff. You can set this up as a wah, you can set it up as a touch wah. I think we need to hear that to get started. Let's just see what the default settings are. Probably my favorite mode in the filter block though is this envelope filter. It's called Touch Res. So it's basically a resonant low pass filter tied to the envelope. You've got a choice between a second and a fourth order filter. This is what it sounds like. You also have a tremolo and a panner hiding in this filter block. So yeah, there's a bunch of sounds with the G Major 2. It's kind of nostalgic for me. So much of this sounds the way I remember the G Major sounding, and the overall user experience really reminds me of that old rack rig that I had. Using the G-Force is a different beast. There's a different layout on there. You can do some different things. It's got that routing matrix that is a lot more flexible. But this is very guitar player friendly. I would probably not hesitate to recommend something like this to somebody who wanted to get into the rack game and not spend a whole lot of money. I paid 300 Australian dollars for this on eBay, so that's probably around the 200, 220 US dollar mark at the time that I'm making this video. For that money, sounds fantastic. It's easy to use. You're not going to run into some of the issues that you have on, say, the Lexicon MPX1 or some of the old Roland or Korg multi-effects units where you really need to read the manual to get the most out of it. This is definitely one of the easier single rack space units to use. I don't think the reverb sound anywhere near as good as something like a Lexicon MPX1. The delays are very good. The chorus and flanger sounds in there are very good. The pitch detune is totally fine. The compressors are fine. Some of the filter stuff in there is cool. Like I said, my only criticism with it is that you can't like place anything in an internal loop. You'd have to get something like a TCG system to do that, which means that, yeah, there's a lot of functions that you can run and run more effects at the same time than, say, an MPX1, but I don't think people are going to be using envelope filters in the effects loop with reverb and delay, and vice versa. If you've got a big, heavy, distorted sound and you want to use the Octaver and the envelope filter or the auto wah, then your delays aren't really going to work out as well as you would like. So definitely some compromise there. Like I said, I wouldn't hesitate recommending this to somebody. I would probably say, hey, get a Rocktron IntelliFX or a G Major 2 or a Lexicon MPX1. They're definitely three of my favorites. Another unit you might want to check out is the Roland DEP5. They can be had really cheap, and they don't do a lot of simultaneous effects, but they have great reverbs, really fun panning delays, and some great Roland modulation in them. I'm trying to think of some other units off the top of my head. If you wanted to go really cheap, something like the Lexicon MPX100 is pretty cool as well. But yeah, it's like a guitar player friendly unit. If this was your only rack effect and you wanted it to work with your amp, have the channel switch on your amp from this, use MIDI, it's pretty darn good. I'd love to know your thoughts on the G Major 2. Are you rocking one of these in your rigs? What effects do you like the most out of it, and how do you use it? Let me know in the comments. If you want to support my channel, as always, there are some links in the video description to do that. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers!